Our next speaker will be Jason Simmons from Utah DOT.
So I'll just cover a few topics, starting with our selection process for concrete preservation. So our maintenance guys will do patches, and they're mostly reactionary. I got to solve one. Some of the pictures we've just seen, they'll do that. But we also like to package preservation projects together. We've had a pretty aggressive program the last 5 or 6 years. And most of our concrete pavements that are over 15 years old have received some sort of preservation treatment in that amount of time. We won't have a lot of projects in the next few years because now we're caught up, which is good on that cycle. We'll go forward. But like Oregon, when we heard before on their section, we collect condition data every other year in both directions. And for concrete pavement, we collect joint spalling, faulting, cracking, and IRI. And then that comes into a pavement management system that we have similar to what we heard from Montana yesterday. It all goes in. Our central system selects projects, and then those projects dictate the funding, and then it goes out to the regions, and the region picks the exact process. So it looks a lot like what we heard yesterday. So with the concrete treatments, we have 2 categories from our pavement management system for projects. We have a repair without grind and a repair with grind. And those are the 2 type of projects we'll select. So the repair without grind will be selected by the system based off of spalling and cracking. So if the spalling and cracking slide from good to fair, then it will select a repair without grind. So my faulting and my IRI will still be good, but my spalling and cracking will be bad. If the IRI and the faulting get bad, then it will select the repair with grind. So those are kind of how we've selected those triggers. And then once that project gets selected, the region decides to do a project, then we look at the individual needs. And most of our projects will have partial depth repair and full depth repair. And it's kind of design it in the field type thing. So we put those items in the job all as estimated quantities, and then the construction crew will actually identify the exact locations. And we've got some rules in our specification about when you have to go from partial depth to full depth. And so that's kind of how we select the project, go about designing it, type frame. Now what we've tried, what treatments we used, we've done it all. We've done several DBRs. We might see 1 or 2 more, but we don't really have any pavements that will qualify for a dowel bar retrofit anymore because we started putting dowels in the pavement, and so come from there. We use diamond grinding. We've used it a lot. It's a good way to improve the ride. We don't have the rutting problem from the studded tires like we've seen from Washington and Oregon, so ours is to fix a ride problem. I'm currently in the process of trying to get our grinding spec to an IRI spec, right? Because that will help with the performance measures coming from there. But you really, as Larry talked about yesterday, you really got to know where you start when you do that. I can't just come in and say bring my concrete to an IRI of 70 because that might not be possible to maintain the thickness. So that's where we're headed with the diamond grinding, but it's a good process. We use it to restore skid a little bit. You start getting some bad skid there, you can come in and grind and bring that back up just a little bit. The partial depth repair stuff we use, we've gotten away from using cementitious materials for partial depth repairs, and we went to the hot applied stuff, the Fibercrete, and Craftco makes a product that's similar to Fibercrete's product. And for a few years, we were using that pretty much exclusively. We have a polyurethane-based product, kind of similar to the Urafast that we've brought in the last couple of years, trying to develop this either-or. The reason we like those products over the cementitious is because they stay in the hole, right? Because you use a cementitious material for partial depth repair, and as what we found is if the properties of that don't match the properties of the existing concrete, then it'll break the concrete around the patch, and yeah, it's a great patch material, but it moves different than the rest, breaks it around, whole thing pops out of the hole, which is not good, right? The flexible stuff, I will say, from Fibercrete and them, the problem that we have had is it has settled, which is not, I would rather it settle than come out of the hole, and we've been working with them and on being able to top it off. Texas has been doing a lot of that as well, and we found we can put that hot applied in the hole, 7 or 8 years down the road it will settle, and now we're going to go about topping those off. And if you think about it, if I could just come and add a 1/4 inch of material to a top of a patch every 7 years, that's pretty cheap preservation, especially if I can get my maintenance guys to do it. So that's where we are with the partial depth repairs. We've also tried a repair for corner breaks where we core, and so if we have more than one corner broken at the same joint where they cross, then I'll just come in, drill a full depth core, and patch that back so I'm not creating points and all those trigger points. Those have been a little hit and miss, but they've worked pretty good. It came from an idea where we do that actually in new construction. So when they build a new road, if they get a corner break right away, then we'll allow them to make that repair. If you don't have good base, they can settle a little bit, but it's pretty good. And we also do panel replacements in those jobs, in any of the jobs. We've used a fair amount of precast panels, any place that they have traffic limitations, which is in a lot of places that are concrete are. You got these work windows where you can only work from 10 o'clock at night till 5 in the morning on the interstate. The precast panels, they're good, but they're expensive. So, we also do cast in place panels. We've also done some panel replacements with the Rapid Set cement and some various other products like that, with some successes, some failures. One thing you gotta look at with concrete preservation is it's so dependent on workmanship. So there's all these products out here, the flexible or this and that, and it all depends on putting it down right. And so if you try a product, it doesn't quite work, you really have to look at it and say, well, why didn't it work? Is it the product, or is it just something that happened in that case? So when I used the Rapid Set cement, I had more than I would have liked that cracked. I think there were some other circumstances that caused that, and it's a product that I'm going to try again. But at the end of the day, if you replace a panel and it gets one crack in the middle of it, is that really that big of a deal unless you start getting faulting in that crack, right? It's just a natural joint. So those are where we are with the panel replacements. I think that covers most of what we do. Like I said, we have good experience in doing all of that. Some of the issues that we have, is asphalt preservation, everybody understands. Concrete preservation, historically has had a build it and forget it mentality. And so a lot of people drive the roads, and I'm sitting here saying, well, I want to do a preservation treatment on this concrete, and they don't think it's that bad. There's corner breaks here and a crack here, and it's like, well, that's right. And they don't really get what we're trying to do to solve the problem. And I get the same problem from maintenance. They want to just come out here and put asphalt in the hole when it patches instead of using one of these other products. And our maintenance folks know asphalt, right? They don't know concrete preservation very well. We're getting there with that, right? And the workmanship has been a problem. That's another issue, but we're getting there. And a couple of jobs I've actually tried to put in a specification that requires training, which has worked out really well. So basically it's a spec just so the contractor has to come, but it basically says, okay, contractor, bring all of your people and we'll bring our inspectors and we'll sit down for a required 2-hour training so that when we start this job, we're all on the same page about what we expect a quality patch to look like, what we're going to look for, how we're going to know that we get a good job. And that little bit of on the job for every time really helps, right? Because we get different inspectors on different jobs, and everybody else probably has that same problem. So I think if you get that training, so that you get quality work and you get everybody on board, you can have a successful program. So, yep.